Good morning, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the channel. My name's John Kelly and I am the mediocre modeler. So as you can probably tell, this is another out and about. We're not at the bench this morning. In fact, we're a long way from the UK. Currently we are on the Canary Island of Lanzarote. Why am I breathing slightly heavily? Well, we're just cruising up a set of stairs, actually just coming out of Porto del Carmen. So there we have the Porto del Carmen, sweep out there into the Atlantic, all the way around there over to Playa Blanca. Okay, so well, why am I here? It's a modelling channel, but I'm trying to start getting a little bit of kind of history into it as well, because a lot of models are around history. So the Canaries has a long history of war, actually, of being invaded, being defended. So things like in the 15th, 16th century, the pirates, Walter Raleigh, Francis Drake, all those kind of people had spent a lot of time in jail here, actually. But I'm here this week on work. I have a group that we've got out here diving, learning to be divers. So I thought whilst I'm here, I'd go and pick up on a little bit of what was known as World War II memorabilia. And there is a bit. Now, of course, we know that Spain itself, on the outbreak of war, declared itself a non-belligerent country. And around 1941-42, it changed our status to neutral. That doesn't mean to say, though, that the Spain itself, and in particular the Spanish islands such as the Canaries, didn't have anything to do with the war. They definitely did. In fact, both the Axis powers, Germany, had a plan for invasion, Operation Felix, and so did the Brits. That was Operation Pilgrim. So in the event of the situation arising, they could invade the islands and take control. But I mean, why would they want to have control of a piece of rock like this? Well, again, that's the Atlantic out there, folks. It's a large bit of sea, and primarily you can see everything that goes past. All the traffic, all the Atlantic convoys pretty much past this point. But of course, more importantly for Germany, it was an ideal place for positioning their U-boats. And so there were lots of, let's call them special operators, spies, if you like, on both the Abwehr, so the Abwehr, the German spy organisation. They had people based here, and of course so did SOE. So Spain was struggling after the Spanish Civil War, and it was in no position to contribute towards the Axis power, and it was actually not very good position to defend itself against the Allies either. But nevertheless, they thought they better have a go. So they have built a series of bunkers, machine gun posts, and some artillery spots. And so this week, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hunt down a few of these. If possible, we can have a little look inside. Some of them are open to the public, but many are not. And we'll just have a little bit of a taste of Spanish history during the Second World War. Okay, so we're on the edge here, I think, but that's definitely a bunker. So I'm going to skip the light fantastic just across the coastline here. I don't know whether the tide's coming in or coming out really, but there's definitely a bunker there, so I'm just going to see if we can get to it. Okay, so I was just talking to one of the locals, and I have to say this really does look like a bunker, but apparently not. Apparently not. It was built by the fishermen, but I mean, maybe, but they definitely look like gun slits to me. I mean, That has to be. I mean, that is a bunker. There's no doubt about it. So we're on Porto del Carmen, on the far end of the beach, quite a long way from far from the madding crowd. That's Porto del Carmen stretching away, and you can see how close this thing is to, you know, that's the sea line there, and it definitely comes up. So despite what my local man just said then, I'm going to say that's a bunker. I'm going to have a little look around over the top and see what we can find. We've got a nice little cactus garden at the top. But there's no obvious way in, so maybe it is just a fake bunker. Doesn't look fake to me though. Anyway, so I'm going to continue on because I know there is one. I found it there yesterday. We're going to continue on a little bit further. I'm getting peckish, mind, so I've got to find some food. Anyway, back in a moment. Okay, so back again. Now, most of the island is, you know, it's volcanic. It's volcanic basalt rock with a lot of high cliffs. But there are lots of little areas, little small beaches. So this is one. And you can land on this, no problem at all. So they were stretched pretty thin, the Spanish. So what they had to do was to try and provide an efficient way of covering the whole of the island. And of course they couldn't. There was just too much coastline, really. Too much coastline, not enough soldiers. Spain had seen, you know, quite a few years of war, and it was pretty ruined. Obviously Franco's fascists won, but nevertheless that army was still pretty depleted by the time the Second World War came around, so he just didn't have the troops. He could have used other people, but it was all about loyalty to Franco's regime. That was one of the issues. So like I say, they were spread very thinly across the islands. But this is definitely a bunker, so I'm just going to have a little look at this one now. Okay, so as I said, that way is Arrecife, along the coast that way. And if we look up there, that goes around to Porto del Carmen. But you can see here that there is a small sandy inlet that could easily be landed, no problem at all. So they were strategic, and this is one of the bunkers that they used to cover this little bit of beach. Unfortunately, that's the entrance, which has been it's been blocked in definitely, and that's been then sort of cemented over. I can see the structures were made of magmatic rock. So this is basalt, which is obviously come out the volcano and then chopped up to form these bunkers. The idea was that it would provide camouflage, and actually, obviously not going to do it now, but if you move a couple of miles offshore, you just can't see these. These are actually very well concealed. Just going to so that was a fire slip there, but again that's all been blocked off. But the ones which face seaward, it's a bit dodgy. hang on, there we go. So this is it's home. That is there's a spider crab in there. Then we can see that, folks. He's just crawling off. But that's the gun slit, and it was very narrow. But a machine gun there, that would definitely cover the approaches from the beach. Let's just have a little look around the corner. Yep. And again, there was another large fire slot there as well, covering that side. Just going to have. I'm just going to pop up the top here. So as I say, it's all boarded up, this one, so there's no way you can get in, but I'm just going to get myself on the roof just so you can have a little look at the roof. Again, there were two, hang on, let me see if I can get up. So these are two open entrances there, which would have had, again, machine gun posts covering both sides of the beach. So, to be honest, I mean, it's an obstacle, there's no doubt about that, but I think if you've got a couple of British destroyers anchored a few kilometres off there, then no matter what these are made of, they're not going to last very long at all, I don't think. But nevertheless, they were there to delay. They were there to delay a landing rather than repel it, because there's no chance that the Spanish had anywhere near the forces to be able to do that. So this is Puerto del Carmen, and I'll say between here and Puerto Calero there's a load of machine gun posts, which we'll have a look at in a minute, and also a couple of these bunkers as well. Okay, so we're going to just take a walk along the coastline now, and this is in between Puerto del Carmen and Puerto Calero. And as you can see, there is a series of these structures, and they are fixed mountains for machine gun posts. They're pretty rudimentary, really, in terms of how they're created. They're just a truncated pyramid made out of concrete. In some of them, you can still see where the MG mounting was. There is an iron or a steel bolt which still sits in the top of the structure. So there's about a dozen of these from on that 3 kilometre stretch. Well, here we are in Caleta de Famara. We're going to have a little look around here because there is a bunker which guards the southern side of the beach, at least I think it is. So we're going to have a little look, see if we can find that. Famara is on the sort of northwest side of the island, so it's a long way from Puerto del Carmen, from Puerto Calero, Costa Teguise. It's more rugged, there's less people, it's more surfy, it's my kind of vibe. In fact, it is where I really learned to surf. It's where I could surf before, but this is where I really cut my teeth, out in Famara. So we're going to have a little look around. Yeah, so as you can see, there's not much in the background, essentially just desert, volcanoes, a couple of little settlements, some interesting artwork there as well, I guess. There is a really good hamburgeria. I won't be visiting there today. Okay, let's go and find the beach. So yeah, we're just walking through Famara now, and you can definitely see it's got a completely different vibe. It's like the Wild West out here. Looks like some kind of a Sergio Leone film, perhaps. Some really interesting little back streets. Again, little cafes, little bistros. And I guess this is what I would say, this is more traditional Lanzarote. I've been coming to Famara for years, like I say. I think the first time I was here was about 30 years ago. And it has changed, no doubt about it. It has changed. But you can't develop. That's one of the things here that you can't. There's no further development. It's a kind of what do they call it? A national park, if you like. This is Famara itself, and you can see a few surfers out there. And if you're surfing off that break there, you're good. Because that's a nasty little reef, for sure. So that's the harbour entrance. And a couple of things that we'll come to have a little look at. Alright, so these are the Famaran cliffs, and right up on the top there is the Battery del Rio. And I'll try and get up there later on today. So that's Famara beach itself. That's a much safer surf break if anyone's interested in surfing. Whereas out here on the reef, yeah, it's a bit dodgy for sure. So we'll take a wander along the beach. Like I say, it's the Wild West out here. but that's what we're after. It is quite an incongruous sight, a pillbox in amongst all the surfers and the restaurants. It's a reminder of the invasion that never came. Of course, these things were built to last up to a point. A lot of them were built to withstand shelling, so they are a bit difficult to get rid of, and most of these bunkers tend to just be left here. Now, this is definitely more substantial than the ones that we saw at Costa del Carmen. Whoop. So on one side, that's covering the entrance to the harbour, so clear line of fire there. Let's have a little peek, see if we can see in it. Ah, well, you can see all the way through it. So there's nothing on this face, it doesn't look as though there ever was. So what we've got is a kind of a north and south defences, if you like. There we go again from the other side. I'll go and have a little go at getting in. Okay, can't get in, definitely not. Just going to go around on the back side of it. This would have been the entrance. There's a little bit of a return wall there, and that would have gone off down that direction before this building was built, and that was the entrance there, but again it's all concreted up. So you'd have come in, entered the bunker, and then essentially you would have had, if we look out here, I'm sort of on the top of the bunker now, you'd had a view that way over to the harbour, and you'd have had a view that way covering the beach. Now, I'm not aware of any more on Famara Beach, but like I said, this is definitely a different technique. This is more substantial than stuff that's on Costa del Carmen. That looks like a lot of concrete's been poured there.